Welcome back to Florida Pediatric TV. I and former State Representative Sam Bell are here today to recap the 2013 session, which ended last Friday. Sam, one of the big items the entire session was the whole issue of the Affordable Care Act Medicaid expansion, and as I understand it, nothing really happened in the end.
Right, that's probably the big disappointment of the session. We had hoped that the legislature would authorize the expansion, which would have covered probably 1,200,000 more Floridians. During the session, the Senate, Senator Negron, had a bill that would have accepted that money and developed a system under the Healthy Kids program. The House rejected that, and in the end, nothing was done. I think that's very unfortunate for the state of Florida. It's going to be very costly in many ways, which makes me think that there is the possibility that the legislature will want to revisit this in a special session. One of the reasons is if they wait until next year, they will have lost one of the 3 years where the federal government was going to fund the entire 100% of the cost. So that's not a rolling 3 years. That's one down if they don't do it, at least in a special session. So that was a big disappointment for us.
At this point, though, there's no specific talk about a special session.
At this point, there is no specific talk about a special session. They are beginning to implement the statewide Medicaid managed care, which is a separate issue, but they're moving ahead with that. Probably just in the last day or two, they announced the award of contracts to HMOs for the long-term care portion of that expansion.
So there were a number of kids issues that did pass this session, and I guess distracted driving was one of the most outstanding of those. Distracted
driving was one of the most interesting, and it passed in the last day of the session. It is a secondary charge, and not a primary charge, and it is prevents texting in any form, whether you're texting or emailing. And that did pass in the last day of the session.
Now, the epinephrine auto-injector in schools was also a success?
That was a success, and that passed, and we're very pleased with that one.
Now, the pulse oximetry to detect critical congenital heart disease was in the budget, although there was never a bill to implement it, and our efforts at proviso language were rejected by the Department of Health. But that item did remain in the budget that went to the governor, right?
That's correct. There actually were bills filed that never moved, and then the budget amendment for Department of Health to implement it was put in the budget. Proviso language that would have laid out the methodology was not included, and I think that's going to be a problem for the department over the summer.
Now, the foster care normalization was an item supported by many, and I believe was successful as well.
Yes, that was successful, and that did pass, and the governor has signed that bill. And there was another bill that I might mention related to foster care. Senator Dietert passed a bill which extended the foster care age to age 21 and set up a methodology for helping those young people who are going on to college or to vocational school. So it was a very good piece of legislation that we supported heavily.
Yes. And then the sudden unexpected infant death bill was problematic in the beginning. It didn't include language that was permissive for the child protection teams, but in the end that got in there. And did that pass?
That's right. That passed. That was Senator Hayes and Representative Santiago's bill, and it did pass, and it was controversial through to the end, but it passed, and we were very pleased with that.
The last time we discussed the issue of the self-attestation and the Medicaid physician fee increase, essentially nothing has changed. There still is a problem with the vaccine administration codes. AAP has announced that they understand there's a problem. A solution is supposedly forthcoming. The issue at the present time is if you bill a claim such as a child health checkup and you include a vaccine product code like you used to in the past, you will indeed get paid the new enhanced rate for the child health checkup, and you will get $10 for the vaccine product, but you cannot add a vaccine administration code to that claim. Otherwise, our understanding is the whole claim bounces. So the best thing to do for the moment is continue to bill like you did before. Don't include the vaccine administration code until we have further word from Medicaid that that problem has been fixed. Now, Sam, there were a number of items that we were hopeful this year but didn't make it. Salary parity for child protection teams is one of those.
That's right. There are several things that we don't like to talk about those when they don't pass, but that was one that came late to us and was not on the legislative agenda for the Department of Health, so it made it more difficult for us to do anything about it. I think that's a next year's item.
Yeah, and there were a couple of items that we were unable to get the Department of Health on board, and I hope that in between now and the next session we can solve that problem. We need to all be on the same side on these issues. And booster seats was probably the biggest disappointment for everyone.
Right, booster seats was, I think we had the support in the Senate, and we had, I believe, a majority of the members of the House that would have voted for the bill. The House leadership, though, did not allow it to ever come before a committee. So again, that's one of the issues that's going to have to wait for next year, and we're already beginning to see our plate become full.
Yes, and then finally, the two kid care bills, the one that provided presumptive eligibility and the other that provided coverage for non-citizens, both of those also never made it. I guess if the Medicaid expansion issue, the Negron bill, is resurrected in a special session, would it be possible to put any of those items into that bill, do you think?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we realize that we probably still have 400,000 kids in Florida that have no insurance coverage, and one of the ways to cut into that number is to expand the eligibility for lawfully residing young people in Florida, and also to accelerate the enrollment with the presumption of eligibility. We had hoped to add that into the Senator Negron's bill had it moved. Since it didn't, those issues fell by the wayside, but those are all part of the discussion that we're going to see when we address expansion of Medicaid.
Now, one final item, I think it's important that the members contribute to PDPAC, the Florida Pediatric Political Action Committee. I wonder if you could discuss how important that is to our members.
Well, I think you see by our discussion here today that there are many issues that come before the legislature here in Tallahassee that have an impact on your profession and your practice and on the children of Florida that you care about. The best way to help us is for you to join the PDPAC and contribute so that we can reach out with meaningful contributions at campaign time. This gives us the opportunity to take the issues before candidates at a time when they're the most willing to talk to us, and get before them. It's access that we're trying to get, and we would urge you to take the time to make a contribution to PDPAC and also to be a part of this activity that we have here in Tallahassee.
The dues for PDPAC is only $120 annually, and you can find the information on our website and also on the member links that come out to you each week. That's it for this session. We've enjoyed bringing you these updates. Please send us your feedback, and we look forward to being with you next session.